Yeah, there are obviously a lot of secrets. There's a lot of mystery involved, and so the experience of reading the scripts and also watching the show becomes something of a detective story. As we, gather more information, we gather more misinformation, and we try to figure out, the truth of things. For my character particularly, he's at the center of that, detective work. So I had a bit more information at the beginning of of our filming than some of the other actors, and I think as well for audiences see Bernard as something of a lens on understanding where we are, who we are, and the rules of the game, because it's his job to kind of unravel this puzzle of the misbehavior of the host. So the mystery and the confusion is part of the fun. That said, I think that audiences will enjoy going back and watching the first season again, because it will be very clear that a lot of that confusion would have disappeared, perhaps if they listened a little differently, watched a little differently, because everything is told from the start in many ways. It's cryptic, but it's also transparent. So there are breadcrumbs left along the way that now when you go back and watch it again, I think will shine a little brighter. They told me as much as I needed to know. They're very smart, and they told each of us as much as we needed to know to do our jobs. I happen to need to know a little bit more simply because of the duality of Bernard and the two timelines that I was playing in, because otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. So I knew after we shot the pilot, the first episode, coming back in to shoot the second and go into the full production, that I knew that I knew his secrets. You're giving everything away. You're giving I found out after we shot the first episode, after the pilot. At that time, I just thought that Bernard was kind of an everyman, detective in some ways for the audience, that the audience could relate to, but that he would be in some ways a guide for understanding a lot of the mystery that the show is built on. But then when I came back, I realized that there was a bit more than that. That Jonah and Lisa had said from the start, Jeffrey, you have so much to do. There's so much that we're going to ask you to do, and we want you to bring everything that you can. And then when I got back, when we went into full production for the season after the first episode, I really understood a bit more about what they meant. And it was necessary that I knew, because working on two different timelines and in two different bodies, it would have been a bit confusing for me if I wasn't aware. That said, when we started, or when I agreed that I was going to do the show, I sent Jonah Nolan an email. I said, Jonah, I'm so excited to be a part of this, to go on this journey with all of you, where we discover that Bernard Lowe has created the character of Robert Ford, as a host. And Jonah sent a note back to me. He said, "Close, Colonel, but no cigar." So, but even then, I didn't suspect that I was in fact, the creator, the created character. But it was good fun, nice, rich territory to play with for an actor. You have a minute? I'll tell you the whole next 10 years. You ready? No, I don't. I know. I tell you, one thing that I've learned in working on the show this first season is that if you try to anticipate what Jonah and Lisa are thinking, you'll look very foolish, because they're way ahead of the curve on this stuff. They're really smart and really inventive, and the show can go anywhere because of the nature of the premise. We can travel in spaces that are only limited to their imagination. So I'll wait and see, just like everyone else. I have some ideas, but I wouldn't offer them, because they when you look at the second season, you realize how wrong I was. I'll look. It won't be a good look for me. Okay, if you insist. I won't give you a guess, but I'll give you a sense of what I think is interesting territory to explore with my character. And then we'll circle back next year to see how close I was. But obviously, we all know at the end of the season that Bernard is actually a facsimile. He's a host. What's interesting is that very few humans are aware of that. Only, in fact, Felix. So, if Bernard is now the chief programmer, the person who has more information about the behavior of these hosts that are wildly misbehaving now, then it'd be necessary for him to be at the center of the human conversation about how we go about dealing with that. So the question becomes, well, what are those conversations like? That'll be interesting if that's where we head, territory to play in. We, I think the first scenes that we shot of the series during the pilot were him and me. The first 2 days were just scenes with us. And I wasn't really concerned about, working together on camera, as I was curious about whether or not off camera, we would get along, because sometimes you find that, just things don't always work out the way you might hope. But one of the great pleasures of working on the show was just having the opportunity to spend time with him off camera. As soon as the camera was off, we were talking politics and talking history, and but also talking about his own personal history in the business. Because he's one of a rare group of actors now who spans multiple generations and also 2 continents, right? So he can talk, as much about, Game of Thrones and, about Silence of the Lambs and HBO on the head, as much about Silence of the Lamb as he can talk about experiences with Laurence Olivier. And that is really cool. He's also, he's had an interesting journey. And he's just got a lot to share. Really thoughtful, bright man, and just a complete gentleman and a professional and a joy to work with, both on camera and off. It's fantastic. And as an actor, he gives you everything. He's so connected to his own intelligence and the way he expresses it through language, that everything is coming your way, and it's just my job to try to give him everything back.